If you've ever been blindsided by someone who knew exactly which ones to target, or if you struggle with that core fear of rejection and not being good enough, this episode breaks down how to recognize when someone's attack says more about them than you. Okay, hey, this is Francisca, and this is my mid-crisis life, and this is this week's episode of Crisis Confessionals. So I'm currently in Reno. We just came back here for like 2 days before we catch up playing home. But I don't really want to talk about being in Reno. So here's a story. All right. So the entire reason that I am taking this trip, the entire reason that I was in Costa Rica is I have a friend who lives there who a couple months ago said to me, hey, come out, man. You're always welcome. Come and stay at my place. You and Cal's are always welcome to come and stay. So I was like, okay, cool, man. This person said that to me about 3 or 4 times. Yeah. And then nearer to the time, I messaged him and I said, hey, these are the dates that I'm looking to book. Is this still all good with you? I got the thumbs up. Amazing, cool. So I went ahead and booked, paid, thousands of pounds, essentially, for flights to come out here in the middle of summer. Because anyone from the UK knows that the minute that the kids go on summer holidays, the flights go up crazy expensive because, you get fined if you take the kids out of school during term time or whatever else, yeah? So only after I'd booked the tickets and paid thousands of pounds for the tickets, I messaged this person and I said, hey, tickets are booked. These are the dates we're coming out. At which point, this person decided to say to me, oh yeah, sorry, that's really not going to work for me anymore. I've got some shit going on and I can't accommodate you. Right, okay, cool. So I spoke to a mutual friend and I was like, kind of pissed about that. Like, why would somebody wait until I booked tickets, paid all this money, and then be like, sorry, not going to work for me? Our mutual friend said to me, well, look, this person's going through a lot. They've got a lot going on at the moment. Something to do with their parent being unwell. So I was like, all right, cool. Let me calm down and let me stop thinking about just myself in the situation, yeah, as stressful and disappointing and frustrating as it was. I was like, all right, cool. Let me take a step back. Let me be a little bit more objective. Let me be a little bit more detached. And let me not just look at this from my own subjective point of view, right? So I said, okay, cool. And I moved on. I spoke to some other friends. Thankfully, one of my friends owns some property. And they were like, yeah, listen, you can just stay there. Don't stress. All right, cool. So all is arranged. I'm still in contact with this person, but not regularly, right? It's hard to maintain contact with people that live in a different country. Anybody who's tried to have a long distance relationship, you know how difficult it is, let alone a long distance friendship, right? But every so often I check in, hey, how you doing? Hope everything's okay, etc., etc. So anyway, it's finally coming time to come to Costa Rica now. And he tells me that he's working for a shuttle company in the area who shuttles people from the airport to the place where we were going to stay. I said, hey, listen, do you think you might be able to talk to your boss and see if you could get us a little discount? So he says, speak to these people. He sends me a link. So I click on the link and I talk to the person. And then I'm like, hey, did you ever manage to speak with your boss about a discount? Like, just asking, let me know. He says to me, well, how much are they charging you? I tell him the price and he says, perfecto. All right, cool. I'm like, cool, man. Thanks so much. It's really cool. Thank you very much. Anyway, we stayed the whole time there. I saw him a couple of times while I was out there. We went and did a couple of things. He came to my house. We ate together. He drove to the beach one time. I watched his dog while he went and surfed for like an hour or whatever, right? Things are cool. Things are chilled, right? I also caught up with him and the catch up really essentially just involved him talking about everything that's happened to him for 3.5 hours. And once asking me, so, hey, what's been going on in your life, right? But this is like a common theme with this person. I know that this person does this, right? Whenever I have conversations with him, they're always very one-sided. So it's to be expected. So I'm like, all right, cool. Everything's chill. Anyway, it comes to the time that we're leaving and they don't have a shuttle at that time because they only run a shuttle at a certain time. And we're leaving too early. So I messaged him again. I was like, hey, listen, do you think there's any way that you might be able to help us out? This is the situation, this is how much they're charging me. And he's like, he says to me, yeah, that is the discount. It's supposed to be this much. It was like a $10 discount or something. So I was like, all right, cool, no worries. So I'm talking to the woman from the shuttle company and things just felt a little bit sussed, right? So I asked her outright, hey, does this include the discount? What discount are you talking about? I said, oh, well, this person said that they were going to give us a discount. She says, why did you book a tour with them or, what's going on? I said, no, it's a good friend of mine. They said that they might be able to get us a discount. She says, okay, hold on, wait there. I'll go and find out. Comes back to me. Oh, I've spoken to so-and-so. He said he has absolutely no idea what you're talking about and said that there's no discount to be given. Maybe you want to talk to him. So, oh, okay. That's weird. So I take a screenshot of the conversation and send it to this person. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? I get a message back. Yeah, what am I looking at here? So I explain the situation, at which point he turns around and says, when did I say anything to you about getting a discount? Huh? What? Yeah, when did I say anything to you about getting a discount? So I screenshot the message from when we came, where he said perfecto. And he said, yeah, where did I say about discount there? And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, the way that you phrased things, I clearly incorrectly assumed that you were saying that you'd got as a discount. What's that about? Well, the barrage, the barrage of abuse that I got from this person from asking that one question was actually wild. It was fucking wild. It went from, how dare you assume anything of me? And because I said, well, why did you skirt the question? Why didn't you just say no? I could have said to you, hey, could you possibly get the discount? And you say, no, sorry, that's not possible. Okay, cool. Instead of skirting the question and making it appear as something that it's not, and now acting like I'm a crazy person because I've asked you about it. So it went from this person saying, well, that's your issue. You're the one that made assumptions, and now you're shitting all over me by asking, by challenging, by calling them out about it, right? In a very polite manner. Now I'm shitting all over them. And it went from that to being, what have you ever done for me? Why should you expect a discount? You've barely spoken to me, but yet you're coming back here and immediately asking if I can do you favors. My job is not to do you favors. It's not for you to reap off of, for you to make money off of. You're not these people. You've never been there for me. What have you ever done? And I'm like, what? How about when I lived here and you used to come to my house like literally every week and I used to feed you? And like, how about you just invited me to come to the beach and then left me looking after your dog for an hour? Like, okay, cool. How about all the times that you asked me to put fake reviews on your on your website page, on your Google thing, right? To help you to sell more. Like, what about all of these things? Like, what about when I came to your house and listened to you go on about your life for 3.5 hours? I was told, well, if you think that that is giving, then you need to reassess what your idea of giving is. That don't mean shit. You think because you did this and that and the other and blah, 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 that somebody owes you something. This is your problem. You only give so that you can take. You're a taker. Everybody knows it. Everybody says the same thing about you. If one person says you're a taker, then it's false. If 3 people say it's false, but if 10 people are all saying the same thing about you, then I'm sorry, it must be true. Why do you think nobody wants to spend any time with you? Why do you think nobody ever wants to hang around with you? Because all you do is take, take, take. All you do is ask for things and give nothing back. Why do you think this person never offered to let you stay in their house? Why this? Why? I was just like, what the fuck, right? I was trying to say to him, I had nothing when I lived here. And when someone gives, even though they have nothing to give, yeah, that's not taking. That's someone who gives freely. Don't tell me that I don't give freely. Anyway, I got this barrage of abuse from this guy. And I'm not going to lie, right? It really, 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 really hurt me. I was actually in pieces. I was in pieces. I was so broken from not just the absolute visceral attack, not because of the absolute character assassination that I was subjected to because I happened to say, hey, why did you do that? Why did you lie? But because the idea that other people have all got together behind my back and started talking about what a horrible user I am hit such a massive core wound for me. So I've said before and I'll say it again. When I was in primary school, I was moved up a year because my mum started me late and I ended up in a classroom with people that had already made friends, that already knew each other very well. And this one girl just told everybody not to be friends with me. And from the age of like 5 or 6, I was completely isolated and ostracized and all alone for years throughout the whole of my primary school. And then on top of it, I had a really abusive, emotionally abusive home that I got to go back to at the end of the day. And it was just the worst time. And I spoke the other day in a video about how I denied to myself that I wanted to be part of the cool kids because I couldn't allow myself to believe that that was true when I was in primary school. And now I saw it happening again while I was here, and that there was probably an air of desperation about me to want to be a part of this group. But for someone then to use that to attack you and to make you feel inferior, to disempower you, to make you feel ashamed of yourself is something that's really, really, really difficult to manage. And I think this is the thing, right? People can say a lot of stuff, right? And oftentimes the things that people say to you are not about you. If you read that book, the 5 agreements, I can't remember how many agreements there are. There's one that says it's not personal. And even with this situation where it was an extremely personal attack, and it seems like this person had been wanting to say this stuff to me for a long time, and it's probably likely true that people have got together and spoken about me in a way that is unflattering. And, I have issue about that because I don't feel like people should gossip about other people when they don't have the ability or are not given the option to justify or to speak up, right? And I have issue with people not coming to you and saying, hey, listen, are you aware that maybe you're putting out this vibe or you're being perceived in this way, but rather allowing you to do it and then just chatting shit about you? That's a whole nother thing. But even though this was a really, really personal attack that was specifically about me, the thing is that it's not personal to me. Everything that someone says, even if they're saying you this and you that and you the other, it's more about what's going on for them, what's going on in their mind, how they feel about themselves, the things that evoke or trigger or are the catalyst for some kind of emotional response that have some kind of emotional signature or like emotional strain for them, right? Which is why they see it, which is why it annoys them. And oftentimes it's why they feel vindicated in being able to say these sorts of things to other people. But the thing is it's really difficult when someone is saying something that cuts so deep. I always worry about how I'm being perceived because that's how I've learned to interact with the world, because I had a parent where I always had to worry about what I was putting out in order to not get this kind of response. And the kind of response that my friend gave me the other night is really no different to the way that my mum has responded to me throughout my whole life. If I said no, or if I said I didn't like that, or if I pulled her up for her behaviour, I would be met with this vicious, resentful, like, I don't know, shame-inducing, just breaking of my entire being, my entire character. How dare you say that to me? Let me tell you about yourself. You are ungrateful. You are a nasty human being. You are this, you are that, you are the other. So when that happened the other day, and particularly because it was around a subject of something that's clearly a very core wound for me, it really hit hard. It really hit hard. And it reminded me of all of those worries and concerns and anxieties that I have about how I'm seen and whether I'm accepted, and particularly just essentially this core wound around rejection, right? But here is how you can have some discernment. So it's very easy when people say things that cut really close to you to get into your own kind of shame spiral and be like, oh God, yeah, if people are saying that, then that must be true. If he's seen this thing about me that I worry about all the time, then that must be who I'm being. Like this deep fear, this like, I don't know, what is it? This imposter syndrome that I feel about who I am and how other people see me. It must be true, right? Because everybody else has seen it. But here's how I had a little bit of discernment in this situation. After I had to calm down and I was not so triggered and I was not so angry and I was not so reactive to what this person was saying to me, I sent them a 7-minute long voice note where I said, hey, listen, I'm sorry for being reactive. I'm sorry that things escalated. I'm sorry that things got out of hand in the way that they did. Yeah, that wasn't my intention. It's never my intention to behave like that. However, I'm just trying to explain to you maybe what I wasn't able to explain when I was angry is that you could have just said, no, I can't do that. You could have even said, no, I don't think it's appropriate for you to ask me for something like that after we've not spoken for this amount of time. But you didn't. You gave an impression, and then when I called you out on that, then you proceeded to completely assassinate my character. And that's the issue that I have. I tried to explain, there were certain times when people would come to my house and eat, and I would feed people knowing full well that that meant maybe I wasn't going to eat for a day or two because I didn't have the money, and that we all give in the way that we can. And when someone gives their time and their love and their care and the intention behind what they're giving is real and is meaningful and comes from a loving place, for me that means a lot more than giving someone a lift to a place that you're already going to, This person's response to that was, yeah, I don't really have time to listen to your entire message, but I accept your apology. And you know what? I don't really know what you're talking about in terms of anything that I've done. I think maybe that you're just triggered about some shit that's going on with you and you're trying to project it onto me. Now, if a person can take absolutely zero accountability for any contribution, any culpability whatsoever for a situation and how it's gotten or how, to the point that it has or how it's escalated, if they've got no self-awareness and no self-reflection skills to even say, you know what, I think like 95% of this issue is you, but I accept that maybe I could have been more forthcoming when you asked me something. If somebody cannot do that, then for me, I don't think that I can find much value in the rest of the things that they've said. And in that message, I even said, you know what, I'm going to take on board what you said, and I'm going to go and think about if that is how I've you know, if that's the impression that I've given to everybody around me, because that's certainly not who I am. And maybe that was just who I was being while I was here because I was in a state of survival. But I'm going to go and think about it. If a person has nothing to reflect on and no impetus to think themselves about the way that they behaved, and on top of it, just remembering the only reason I'm here in this situation and having to beg other people to support me is because like 4 weeks before I was supposed to be coming out, you just dropped me and left me to just flail around and impose myself on somebody else. And I never said anything to you about it, but you have zero culpability in this situation. Then it means I don't really give much credence to the things that you said. And you can just fuck off, basically. I think that's it. So something that I'm grateful for. I think in this situation, what I'm really grateful for is that even though the way that it was delivered was puerile and juvenile and purposefully hurtful, what it's done is it's acted as a catalyst for me to see very clearly that there are still significant unresolved traumas inside me, that there is still such a significant wound around rejection, around fitting in, around how I'm seen by everybody else, that somebody has that much power over me to be able to make me feel broken and ashamed from the things that they've said. It's really a blessing and it's a gift for me to have the opportunity now to look at these things. So for that, I'm like forever grateful. Okay, that's it.
That fear of rejection living in your body, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility to heal. Drop a comment if this resonated. Have you experienced character assassination from someone who knew your wounds? And come back for Monday Mindset, where we're going to be talking about core wounds a little deeper.